Whoa! Hey, what's happening? Let me see here. Ooh, I got to kick into high definition here. 1 second. There we go. And just double check my audio, and it's working, and everything should be good. Can you all see me? You can all hear me? What's happening out there? Here he is. Says Ilmiras Chuma something or other. What's happening, dudes? I was in Minnesota a few hours ago, and I just got back. So, little gig, fluffy hair. Must have been something to do with the airplane. Flew back on Delta Airlines. They had some problems recently, but I guess it's all good now because it was eventless. It was just fine. Good flight. Last night I played at Rib Fest at sort of casino venue outside of St. Paul, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And we played with the Letters to Cleo guys. That was fun. And I had a nice hang with them, and we did some songs and played some tunes for the nice people that were in attendance. It was good. Rib Fest, says Paul. Do you know about this? I didn't have any ribs. I feel bad. I actually ate a steak last night, but I didn't have any ribs. So, what are you guys talking about? Let's see. What should we get into here? Sorry, I'm frazzled. I just literally I took an Uber. I was gonna come straight from the airport to here to do this, and then I realized I think I have time to go home, which means I can go get my car and stuff. So my car was parked at home, so I scooted all the way home, made it over here in time for this, and everything's wonderful. So I am a little frazzled. Yeah. Look at this. Dan says notification came up, and just sitting here playing my brand new Pete Thorn SIG 6 days ago. Oh, you got it 6 days ago. Not sure who he is, but he's probably going places. Hey, I'm glad you got the guitar. And what color did you get? Let me know what you think. Is it the original one with 2 humbuckers, or is it an HSS, or what? Or what? We got Steven, we got Christopher, we got Arthur, we got Paul. Good to have you all here. Excuse me. Okay, I'm just going to kind of go through the chat here and pick some questions. How much difference does an interface make when recording, assuming same bit rates? Well, I have noticed difference in converters before. I'm not sure if it's as big a deal as it used to be, like probably, 15, 20 years ago when stuff was a little, still coming to fruition or whatever. Things are, because, everything's come down in price as far as like the quality of, you can probably get some, like if you're a, manufacturer of interfaces, you can probably get a pretty good converter now for relatively cheap to put into your, I'm sure they don't cost what they used to because everything's come down. But nonetheless, I don't know. I mean, I use UA interfaces and love them. And I like UA, I like Apogee. I use and recommend. Apollo X8P is my main interface. I've got also an Apollo Twin, and they're terrific. So I don't really. It's not like I've done like I can claim to have done a direct A/B comparison between RME and and Focusrites and UA and all that stuff. But I'm a happy UA user. That's all I can say. So they're terrific. Christopher says, how the hell are you? I'm pretty good. How you doing, man? Corvette Summer. Corvette Summer taught me, a dirty millennial, that you guys didn't pay jack squat for burgers and soda in the 70s. That's true. Corvette Summer with Mark Hamill. I think he did Corvette Summer after filming the first Star Wars, which is hilarious because, little did he know he was about to be this massive star, and he's out doing other movies in Corvette Summer. It's a really, really silly movie. But anyways, I remember that. I haven't seen that movie in probably 35 years or something. Just got the new Wampler Germanium Tumnus pedal. It's really great. Clean boost overdrive. Folks say it's the best clone. That's Earl. Yeah, I haven't tried that one, but I do have a germanium unobtainium here. So that's also a clone with a germanium chip. So it's probably going to be pretty darn similar, I would say. So I'm excited to try that. I haven't tried it yet. I just haven't had time. Been out traveling and stuff. All right. There's another fella that's got one. Braxall Germanium Tumnus Deluxe 725 on the OnePlus site before they sold out. I heard they sold super fast. Very popular. People like special things, unique one-off, limited editions, pedals, guitars, albums, special album art, picture disc, LPs I'm talking about. Colored vinyl, it's popular. This is the thing with, only streaming. I don't know, I just kind of segued out of guitars and pedals there to music, but it's like physical media is still a very big deal in Japan. They're kind of the last one that's holding on. But I imagine they're probably kind of, I'm sure vinyl is like a huge deal in Japan too. I'm not actually sure about that, but it probably is. And I mean, definitely vinyl bars are and stuff. I just don't know if it's as big of a like folks buying. Probably is. And they will probably make that transition from CDs and that physical media to vinyl, like relatively, or maybe it's always been that way. Maybe that was, I don't know. Next time I go to Japan, I got to check it out. But because I love going to record bars there. That's where, this is starting to happen here. I don't know if you guys have one of these in your town, but here in LA, one of my favorite bars is a record bar, Tokyo style record bar. And what they are is they generally have a great system, hi-fi system, and it'll be behind the bar. And there'll either be a DJ or maybe sometimes the bartender is the DJ in Japan, which is really cool. But they'll generally like sort of display the record that they're playing currently. Maybe up behind the bar in a like lit up kind of behind the bar. And so you can see what the current album is that's playing. And they generally just display the records quite prominently because the sort of the size of the collection is an impressive thing, I guess, and then the speakers are generally mounted up in the wall behind the bar for the system. And it's like the one I go to here in LA. They've got all Macintosh amps and preamps and stuff like that, really good. And these nice, great big hi-fi speakers. And it sounds so good in there listening to it, to albums. Everything's vinyl that you're hearing. So it sounds so good. So they do a lot of like kind of like soul and R&B. It's not so much rock, but a little bit like every now and then, or like some alternative stuff where it's kind of, but it's so cool. It sounds so good in there. And they're also one of the only places in LA that has a Suntory highball machine, which means, special Japanese soda water and Japanese whiskey and get a nice highball. Delish. Anyways, I just love that whole, like the kind of the record bar culture thing. It's never too loud. It's always like it's music just sounds really good and you can talk and, hear some good stuff. And it's got a kind of a nice vibe to it, a record bar. I love it. There's many in Tokyo that are themed, so they might be like all, a certain kind of music or maybe even a certain artist. I mean, there's, one's geared towards whatever you're into. So, all right. What else? I wash my hands before playing my Sir. Don't want sticky. I can't play guitar without washing my hands, really. It's gross. Like, even if I like, when you go to set up at a rehearsal or something, you got cables and you're unwrapping them and stuff, and then you set your stuff up. I mean, even if you had clean hands before that, now you've touched a bunch of cables that have been all over the floor. And you go to play the guitar and it's like, no. I just feel like I'm killing my strings and it doesn't feel good, like right out of the gate. Gotta wash my hands before I play. Yeah. Am I on tour with Fight for Fighting already? No, last night was a one-off, so the proper sort of mini tour 2-week run is coming up in a few days. So come on out and see a show if you're. It's on the Fight for Fighting website. All the dates. We're playing in Detroit. We're playing in Massachusetts. We're playing in Pennsylvania. We're all over kind of that zone. It's sort of, I guess, a little Midwest, a little East Coast kind of run. Virginia somewhere. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. First tour I will have done with my old friend Why Not Jansfeld on bass guitar in a little while. I toured with him in Japan, actually. The last full tour I did in Japan, 2018. It's been a minute. He was the bass player. I was over there with him for a few months. So anyway, he's doing this 2-week run with Fight for Fighting. Should be fun. He's a great bass player. He plays with Richard Marks, and he also has been subbing for about a year in Matchbox 20. Matchbox 20. I think their bass player was having a baby or something like that. So he took some time off. There's a big old super chat up there. I think I'm going to grab that. I am going to grab that. Just 1 second here. Let's get to that. Where is it? There it is. Something for the coffee fund. Thanks for doing these. Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Got to keep us in coffee. I went to coffee place and got a little milk latte on the way here. So I guess you can blame me for being late because I was taking care of the coffee needs. But we got to have coffee or else, especially getting off a long plane. Man, I fell asleep on that plane. Whew. I was out. Tell you what, I got some AirPod Pros and I'm a convert. I was avoiding all that for a long time. I have this thing about Apple where I feel like I give them enough of my money with computers and phones and stuff. So I've got an old iPad that's like 10 years old that I use for when I absolutely need an iPad for something, which is almost never. But then they come along and they make something like AirPod Pro, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, these are amazing. Like the noise canceling and just all the stuff is there. I don't know. I was just like, oh, what? They're wireless headphones. I can just use the ones you plug into the phone. They give you with it. It's fine. No, they're pretty cool. They are pretty cool. Took me about 2 seconds to plug them in and really enjoy them. So anyways, how did I even get onto that? Talking about that, I'm not sure, but anyways, I appreciate the super chat there from you, Lou, and we'll go buy some beans with that. And we've got another super chat. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Good day, Pete. Any chance of a vid soon with your Destroyer and Dave Friedman's V? Did I even mention that I was thinking of doing that? Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't though. You just thought of it because I was like, that's a good idea for video. Actually, I thought of it a couple weeks ago, like a little bit of maybe Ibanez lawsuit era Destroyer V action, a little history involved, and we can listen to the guitars and stuff too. And would you like a video like that? I got a new one, I think. Sounds fun to me. Super Chad. Guitars for your project. Thanks for the super chat as well. Do you have any tips on playing outside when you're I thought you meant like I was going to give you some tips on like playing, the wrong notes. But you meant outdoors. L'extérieur in France. Do you have any tips on playing outside when your hands are hot and sweaty and the guitar feels sticky? You got to just like a little, I know people that have done the baby powder thing, or they put some kind of talcum powder or something on their hands and kind of, you know what I mean? Stuart Smith from the Eagles, he does that. He does it before every show, like just kind of to keep the sweat down and stuff. I would just recommend having a towel handy, because that's what I do. And it's hard. You might try some fast fret or something. If you could, the worst part for me isn't the on the fingerboard is the hard part for me. So it's like you might try getting some the GHS fast fret, I think it's called. Do I have some here? There's some D'Addario stuff you can get. Like, yeah, here's some, something like that. That'll kind of lubricate the string. This is just like a I believe, yeah. So it's just like you could like it's like a thing. You just kind of wipe it down the strings, and it's got lubricant that somehow, I don't know how it works, but it does. Just kind of comes off and gets on the string and makes it, I don't know. Lubricated. Lubrication. Gotta love some lubrication every now and then. You can get the spray stuff too, the fast fret. That'll help. Brad Miller says, I think Satriani is killing it on the Van Halen tour, playing Eddie's riffs, but also making his own. He is, yeah. I've talked to a lot of people with this. I mean, Joe's a stylist, and he's lived in his own style for so many years, and it's hard for guys like that. I mean, even with Steve Vai played Eddie Van Halen's riffs when he was playing with Dave Lee Roth in the mid '80s, he sounded like Steve Vai, he just did, and there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. And they're a different band. I mean, it's like they're not. Van Halen, of course, had the benefit of playing with each other for years and years and years and years and years before any of us ever heard of them. And that's like, and not to mention the bond of the brothers, playing the grooves and stuff like that is something that very few of us will ever get to achieve, playing with a brother for since the time you're 4 years old or 5 years old or whatever, and making music with them. And that kind of, you're like, you operate like one brain almost musically. That's what Van Halen always struck me as, that as much as there was chemistry between, like Dave and Ed, and that kind of like, whatever that, that thing, just as much of the chemistry in Van Halen to me is always the Al and Ed thing. So, and of course Mike, and then, they just had a sound that was very unique. So to just go out and play this stuff is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. It'd be like going out and trying to play like the Beatles, and sound like them, or going out and trying to play, Led Zeppelin is very difficult to get right. And a lot of this comes out of the drums too. I believe, the certain feel that's coming from the kit it's a unique thing coming, drummers. So it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing to bite off, to tackle, to play the music of a unit that had a sound and a groove and a feel and a vibe, and to try and make it sound right. So, I feel like the last few shows I've seen some good videos, and I feel like they sound good, like really, like it's like, yeah, that's a good vibe, and it's like I think they're having fun out there and doing it. I don't think Joe sounds like Ed really, he sounds like Joe playing Ed songs, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think, it's okay, and it's fun, and they're out making music, and this is life, and we make of it what we do, because it's people pass away, and that's part of it, and it's sad, and then you want to experience the songs. Well, this is your chance to go experience that music with at least some of the people that were involved, and other people that are putting their own spin on it and stuff and doing their own thing. Also, the show looks incredible. The lighting, and it's really nice design, I feel like. And that's the one thing that did make me feel like, oh, it would have been so cool had they been able to get it together to do one last run, with everybody, like Al and Dave and Ed and Mike and Sammy, if they had all done that tour that kind of Wolf said that they, that was the goal, was to do a kitchen sink sort of tour, right? That would have been great, but it just wasn't meant to be. So this is what they're doing, and I think it's cool, Okay. Mark says he thinks the AirPod Pros are amazing. Uses his every day. I'm kind of addicted to them. Like after just a few short days of having some, and I'm like, okay, I really like this actually. So, mind explaining the patch box on your new board and the various options? Well, I have the board right here. We can take a look at it if you want. You can ask me questions you want about it. Here it is. So this is the one I made the video of this week. So the patch bays, there's nothing on that side. This side has all the 1/4-inch jacks. So, and these look like this underneath, they're just this little, like, kind of like they screw in on the sides. They're very easy. You just order them from Temple. Well, one person did make a comment that they're quite expensive, and I would agree with that. They're kind of a little bit exorbitantly expensive for what they are, I think. But kind of one of my only complaints about this, because it's a terrific little pedal board. Really light. I like it a lot, and I like the units. I just think, geez, really, like they're that much? Because it's not like the jacks are exceptional or anything like that. But anyways, I just bought them. I bit the bullet and got them. So basically, the way it goes here, this is the guitar input for the whole board. So it would come out of here and then go right into the tuner next. So that's where I plug in a guitar, and then these are labeled amp in. So this goes out to the amplifier. So in other words, what's going on is my guitar comes in here, goes through this pedal, the superconductor, then goes to the switcher. The switcher's routed to 5 pedals: compressor, fuzz, archer, anodyne chorus and the ToneX. And then the output of the switcher comes back out to that amp in jack. And that kind of sends out to the amplifier input. And then what happens next is the send from the effect loop of my amp goes in here. And then that goes to this mixer, which is from RJM, this guy right here. And then it is patched to the Illumine and the Dig here, these two pedals. So mono in, stereo out, coming back to the mixer, stereo out in the mixer. Those stereo outs go all the way back over here to the left and right outs, and then those will go to the effects loop returns. Or if I want to run mono, I can just run one side, the left side, and in that case, I would pull the right input and output or whatever. Is that right? On how would I do that? Oh, left, right. Yeah, I think I would just pull the one output on each side of the pedal, the stereo out. Yeah. Stereo out on, that's right. Stereo out on the Dig. And because this is already switched to mono, so it's just a mono input, a little switch there. So I pull the right out of the Illumine, and then these will both kick into, if you don't plug a cable in there, they'll generally collapse everything to mono to go straight out the left output. So then I could just take just the left out and run in mono over here. And that's it. So if you have any more questions, let me know about routing or anything. Put out the video this week. It's very popular. Got a lot of views. Got like 40,000 views in a day. It was like, wow, people still love pedal boards and videos about them. Fun. Would love to see you play live, says Todd. Thanks, man. I hope to meet you out there someday too. One of these days. Any more Sir clinics? Not yet, but I am wanting to do that. So maybe I might do a couple one-off things in the fall, but I don't think it's anything in the US per se. But next year, I got a lot of stuff going on. So there's definitely going to be stuff. Like there's definitely some clinics coming up. Just not. I've got this 2-week tour coming up, and then I've got another. I'm supposed to go to Italy for something in September. I might go to Japan in October, and then like November, December, I think I'm just going to stay home because then by January it'll be time for Classic Rock Show in England. So the other chance I was going to say to see a show, would be, I'm pretty sure we'll probably be doing an American Classic Rock Show tour again next year or two. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. I think that's the goal. So, and we'll be doing dates in England and Europe and stuff, and those will be announced probably relatively soon. So, if you're in the UK, probably nobody watching in Europe right now, and because it's super late over there already. But if you're in the UK or if you're in Europe, we'll be doing that, and then probably another American run in the spring. So, and then some clinics probably later in the year. How long did it take Rack Systems to build the new board? They spend on and off maybe like a week on it, sort of thing. They don't work. I mean, it's not like they come in and work like 8 hours a day on it or anything. Dave and Jamie will kind of, do a bit of work and stuff like, sometimes accomplish a lot in a day, and then they might have a different job to do for somebody, a jerry can trail or a slash or something will come along and need something done like right away. So then they got to go off and get that done. It wasn't like a rush job or anything. This board, I didn't need it super quick. So, I should probably quit drinking coffee right on top of it in case I drop it. Let's see. What were you listening to on the flight? I was actually doing Japanese and a little bit of like sleeping time music because I took a nap. But I've been doing Duolingo for Japanese. It's pretty awesome. So that was cool. Just down on my phone, little Japanese lessons. Really enjoying that a lot. It was on Tone Talk regarding the VN Explorer. Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to make that video. I want to learn a little more. I mean, I already learned a little bit because I went and did a little research, but the history of the Ibanez Corporation is kind of, Hoshino and stuff. And you know, how they picked the name Ibanez, for example. Stuff is kind of interesting, I think. And they were made in a lot of them were made by Greco in the Greco factory. You know, so if you see a Greco destroyer, it's exactly the same as an Ibanez from the same era. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. They're really good guitars. Like there's really like the V that Dave got's excellent. It's just interesting. It's like you know, for the time they could really build a nice guitar. 70s. It was kind of a weird era for guitars, you know, certainly Gibson and Fender, but is the Universal Bar and Grill still around? Yeah, I believe it is. I've never been there, but I know where it is. I drive by it all the time. Never been in there. Picked up the J-Rocket Clockwork. That's an analog delay, right? Holds up compared to the OG Memory Man. I'm boring. 199B stock on the J-Rocket site. That's cool. I did a video for that a long time ago, remember? Yeah. Okay, what else you guys talking about? Trying to sell my 91 Les Paul to buy your SIG. What's the rarest color? Thanks, RC. Love you too. The rarest color. Well, I don't know. For the original 2 humbucker version, probably gold. You don't see that many gold ones. My favorite color is garnet red for that one. I love it. But I like them all. On the newer one, the black sparkle seems to be quite popular. The silver was the initial color that we offered, and it was sold really well, like right out of the gate. So there's lots of silver ones out there, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Would love an in-depth guitar speaker video with comparisons. Oh man, that's a good idea, but Johan Segborn's already done some great stuff in that regard. You know, you can watch some of his videos on old speakers and cabs. It's kind of a pain in the butt doing speaker videos because I figure the only way to really do it is to keep the mics in a static position on a cabinet and then have the cabinet also kind of not move and then just reload the speakers into the cabinet. Like, so you got to pop the back, put a new speaker in, record, you know, maybe using a looper pedal or something. But the cabinet needs to stay stationary and the mics can't move at all. So you have to be very careful. And that's the way I did them a long time ago with for Scumbag and stuff. I did videos like that. But man, it drove me crazy. I was like, I don't want to know about guitar speakers at all after doing this video. That's the way I felt because it was like such a kind of a pain in the butt to switch the speakers out and stuff. It's just, you know, there's a lot of physical involved in making those videos and just, you know, screwing the back on and off. And so they should almost make a cabinet that you can easily switch a speaker in and out of just to do that kind of thing, you know, a video like that. I feel like if you were to listen to clips of IRs, it's actually a better representation in some ways because, like, for example, like it's probably clips on the Celestion site and stuff, I think, because they made clips. I think I might be on the Celestion site, actually. Like, I remember sending them clips they could reamp to demonstrate their original IRs. And that, because, you know, an IR is a static position of a microphone on a, you know, generally speaking, like Celestion would be was very scientific about placing the mics and everything. So if you listen to the same clip through, excuse me, man, I'm gonna sneeze a lot today. If you listen to the same clip reamped through, you know, a bunch of different IRs of say G12H30 or Greenback or Creamback or whatever, the microphone positions are going to be really consistent with the same, you know, assuming you use the same kind of cab and stuff. So then you could get a little better idea of what the actual speakers sound like. Like, it's just probably a more consistent way to actually listen and get an idea. Kind of one of the neat things about IRs and digital modelers and all that is I think they've given people an idea of what different gear that maybe would be difficult to try otherwise. Sounds like, oh, you get to try a Klon in an Axe-Fx or something, or at least get an idea of what that means, Oh, it's not a fuzz. It's this kind of overdrive. I get it. And learn a little bit, But anyway, I do have a few videos on speakers, but not exactly what you're asking for, I guess, like with, references from recordings. It's an interesting idea. Many times you don't know what people use, because how do we know, It's like some record was recorded in 1973 or something, and nobody remembers exactly what the speakers were, or AC/DC. It's like, do we know like what Malcolm used on Oh, he was sort of using super bass back then, probably G12H30s, but who knows, Hmm. And then also microphone choices, because a lot of times you'll like just using AC/DC as an example, they'll use like U67s back then on the cabinets or something. So it's a very different sound from a 57. So anyway, do I have any 3 humbucker guitars? No, I don't think I do. Would I want one? I don't know. I don't think so. I get 3 single coils. I do love the middle pickup on a Strat these days. Like even by itself, it's cool. Really cool. Maybe it'd be cool. I don't know. One of those Pete Townsend Les Paul Deluxes or something, or maybe a 3 pickup Les Paul Custom, like the Phoenix. Kind of neat. But I sort of do think there's something to the whole, Phil X has this like single pickup guitar sound better because you don't have that neck pickup with magnets and stuff pulling on the strings, and then on a humbucker it's a less of an issue than a on a single coil when 3 Strat pickups, they pull on the strings, magnets pull on the strings if they're too close, but Strat-itis we call it. RC saying talcum is toxic. That's interesting. So don't use talcum powder on your strings. I never said that. Don't do it. I didn't bring it up. Maybe there's like a modern version or something that's not. I don't know, because I know like that thing came out a while ago about talcum, and people have been using it forever on their kids and stuff like that, right? Babies, and it's like toxic. I remember that now. I just remembered Stuart Smith from the Eagles always powder, and maybe it was talcum and maybe it was toxic. We just didn't know. I don't remember. But anyways. Okay. I watched the Xerox demo module. Do you think Synergy will rework their Plexi 800 Metroplex to include the phase inverter? Well, you need a gain stage, I know, to do it. So you need at least, I think, 1 tube. Is it 1 tube? So you can do it easily in because like a Plexi, for instance, is like the gain stage and then the cathode follower and then the phase inverter, right? The architecture. And for the phase inverter, I guess you need both sides, right? So that's a tube. So that's part of the problem, is that on something like the Metroplex or an 800, you won't have enough gain stages, I don't think. So they'd have to make a module with 3. Oh no, never mind. There's the tube, the input tube in a Synergy that's shared. I don't really know exactly which ones they can do it in and which ones they can't. But basically, you've got 2 tubes per module, and then you've got an input tube. Some of them that use multiple different gain stages, in front for, the medium to high gain modules. There probably wouldn't be enough gain stages to devote to the phase inverter circuit. So, but some of them there would be. So, think any kind of AC30 or Plexi or stuff like that. So maybe, I don't know. It's definitely cool. Really liked it in that particular module. Just terrific. Yeah. Richard went to the Best of All Worlds show. Excellent show in Charlotte. That's cool. Hey, man, if people are going out and having fun, listening to music and hearing some tunes in summertime, it's all for the best. I like it. Can you give us any wah pedal suggestions for beginner? Well, if BBE still makes their wah, that was the one that was the whole famous Vertex problem. BBE, that they modeled their axis, or basically, yeah. So the BBE wah effect pedal used at guitar. There's one at Guitar Center right now for $59.99. Here's another one used $45.27 BBE wah. You can get a nice one for under $50 right now. BBE Benoit, it's called. Do they still make it? I don't even know if they still make it, but I'm seeing them used. Here's one for $80 on Reverb. In operational condition with some cosmetic damage. It's pretty good to me. That was my favorite. I mean, that wah sounded like so friggin' good. I had the, the Vertex version, which is exactly the same. It says, bringing together a host of boutique features like an all-analog design, hand-wired circuitry for true vintage fidelity, and a unique harmony knob on the side, which contours the EQ response. Based on a 1967 Class A circuit built with coveted halo inductor and pot. It's a fast avenue to the wah tones of greats like Hendrix and Clapton. Does your Destroyer have stock pickups in it? No, my Destroyer came from a guy that got it from the owner of TV Jones pickups. And so he's got a set of TV Jones pickups in there because that's what he put in there. I don't know what what originally, like, or when he got it and what it had in it or why he replaced them. But anyways, when we did that Eddie Van Halen pickup comparo video, I tried some Super 70s in it, and that was like one of my least favorite pickups that I tried in that guitar. So I don't know if all Super 70s are not created equal sort of thing, but I didn't really like them. So anyway, the pickups that are in the guitar now are the TV Jones that are some sort of PAF style. I think they're about 8.3 or 4K, something like that when we measured it. And they sound great. And I have no desire to change it. There it is right there. Pickup sound killer. So they've been in there for about 20 years, I think, because the fella from TV Jones had sold it to somebody 20 years ago that I bought it from. Yeah. Okay. There's Paul with a little super chat there. Thank you, my friend. How are you digging the SSV Plus on your black HSS? Love them. Great pickup. It's fun. It's darker. That's what I noticed. It doesn't have the sparkle of the Thornbucker when I'm playing clean. So I wouldn't do, for example, like a 5 for Fighting gig with it. It's one of my favorite things to do with 5 for Fighting is actually use the Thornbucker in parallel and just the bridge pickup. And it's got this great sparkly, really cool sound. Really all this clarity, but it's not like ice picky. It's just really clear. It's like fidelity. It just sounds really good. But with a hotter pickup, it just moves the resonant peak, and you don't have the PAF, the kind of one step towards single coil thing. So what it is great at is distortion, because if you're playing dirty and high gain solos and stuff, it's warm, which is nice when it's got the power to really sing. So we want sustain and all that stuff. It sounds great. So I love the SSV Plus. Sorry, it's not an SSV Plus, SSH Plus actually, Paul. SSH Plus. So it's the real hot one, 17K or something. Yeah. I'm wondering if you ever plugged amps into an isolation transformer. I have a good grounded outlet and two copper rod. I have a firming conditioner, so I'm still having noise problems. Okay. Firming conditioners. Yeah. So are you running 2 amps at once? Because you say amps. So I wonder if that's your issue, and if you need to just isolate one or ground left one in a pinch. If you ever split out of a pedal or something into 2, you're going to have a ground loop every time. So you got to isolate one side for sure. And the best way to do it is on the way to the input of the second amp with an isolation transformer. That's the short answer. Tell me your setup, and I can give you a better answer, though. Okay. I'm just reading through some comments here. On your new tempo board, how are the pedals attached? Dual lock. Yeah, it's not the tempo stuff. It's dual lock. So yeah, we didn't do that. It's a traditional kind of way that Dave would always do it. Yeah. Yeah. So what else? Reading. His Destroyer is TV Jones pickups. That's right. How much cash was the pedalboard investment? Well, I don't want to tell you exactly how much it was. Just because I don't. But a pedalboard like this, give or take. I mean, like the board. I don't know what the board. I just bought the board at Sweetwater, and the patch bays. I mean, probably in parts and stuff, not including the cables and everything that Rack Systems did, but for the board itself, it's $100 and something, and then the patch bays probably bring it up to like 180 or something. And then I had to buy this Pedal Power 3 on the bottom, as well as this Morningstar MIDI box, this ground isolation guy. So this is a couple hundred, I think. This is whatever. So then we're up to $400 or something like that. So if you've already got all your pedals together, then to have Rack Systems do it, it's going to run you in labor. I'm not sure what their labor rate is. It might be 80 an hour or something. And then you've got all the jacks and parts and cables and stuff like that. And it'll take them a few days to do it. You can kind of generally count on, labor and part. It really depends on the side of the board. It could be a couple grand. It could be 3,500, depending on, where you end up. And so with all the parts and all the pedals and everything, you're going to probably end up, most guitar players, with probably like, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 investment or something like that, in a board like that. But at the end of the day, you end up with a tool that you use, it's all tax deductible if you're a professional musician. And at the end of the day, you end up with a tool that you'll use that'll be reliable and quiet, and everything will work. And it'll be something that, just like buying a computer or a guitar, I guess, or something that you use in the course of your work. So I tend to think it's worth it. I mean, it's something that you can do yourself if you're good at, cutting cables, and if you're good at, tracking down problems and stuff like that. But not a lot of people are good at that, including me. I'm terrible at soldering stuff, and so these guys do this work every day for the top players. So it's like they've got it all figured out, and they do a really terrific job. So it's a good investment, I think, at the end of the day. I've always had Rack Systems do my boards and racks. Yeah. Okay. Going to see Foo Fighters, says Smart Mammal. Cool, fun. That looks like a smart mammal. Look at that good boy in the avatar there. Cute. Love animals. Is it easy to adjust levels on the RJM mixer? I never even, there's two pots, but however they put them, they probably just all the way up. And they're just fine the way they are. So I just adjust the levels on the pedals, because the pedals are in kill drive, which usually means that the whatever would be the mix knob normally now operates as a output level for the effect. So you just turn that up, and there's a nice level for the reverb, and everything sounds great. And then the dry never changes; it's just through. So, what ToneX 1IRs do you use on your pedal board? Haven't gotten into it yet, to be honest. Yeah, I haven't even played through that pedal yet on the board. Whatever's in it right now is what I had in it when I made my video for the ToneX 1 a few months back. So I got to get into doing that. At some point, I'll devote some time into making some, direct sounds with the board, and put a good, probably just like a PT100 crunch and a PT100 clean or something in for the two sounds on the, so I can A/B between those two. And then if I want to turn it into an overdrive or fuzz, I can put a few, overdrive and fuzz captures in there and do that. I can't quite remember how to do that, because it's like, there's a way to configure the pedal. I think the easiest thing might be to do it in a computer with the ToneX One computer editor. If I want to switch it up so there's different captures in there and stuff to use for different things. So anyway, but the first thing I'll probably do is put a clean and dirty in it, to use so I can just plug the board in direct and have a good clean sound, good dirty sound. Why do I not have the Cornerstone Nero on there? It's a great fuzz. Really, really nice sounding fuzz. I actually really quite enjoy that pedal. And yeah, I may do that in the future. It's a little bit of a different sound than the one that's on there. I would say it's a little more like a bit of a classic fuzz face kind of sound. And then the Starlight, I always call it the fuzz pedal for people that don't understand fuzz or don't get fuzz. It's more of like can be more like an overdrive, a distortion, or a fuzz, depending on where the gain is on it. It's a very friendly pedal. So it's not really a fuzz face at all, although it sort of sounds kind of like one at times. But it's a bit more of a friendly, like the Nero is a little bit more like a warm, fuzz facey, like that slow attack kind of sound. You know what I mean? And this is a bit more like can morph into, it can be a bit more like Big Muff or a bit more like, even more like amp distortion than a Big Muff though. So it's a fuzz, but it's got a bit, it's got less of that soft edge that maybe something like the Nero has, which is a great sound. It's just a different sound, So as a versatile fuzz that kind of covers a ton of ground, the Starlight has always been my choice for like over probably 10 years or something now. If you need, like, I need a lot of different fuzz tones. I can't just have one that sounds like a fuzz face or have one that sounds like a tone bed or one that sounds like a Big Muff. I need something that can kind of morph around and be just an alternate gain sound. It's just versatile. I love it. And it works with buffers great. Nero does too, though. Have you ever played a CE24? Used to have a CE24 PRS. Seems like it might be a good fit. Yeah, you kind of called that. It was a good guitar. Had a cherry sunburst one, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. Had it for a number of years in the 90s. Kind of mid to late 90s. I had that guitar. I don't remember when maybe early 90s, maybe to mid 90s. I think I had sold it by 95 or something. I probably only had it a couple of years. And then I got a McCarty after that. That was a really, really good guitar. I still remember the neck on that guitar. It had a great shape to it. Really playable. Very nice guitar. Very similar color, actually, to my, well, it's not mine, but the Aura that I have here that is back there right now. Kind of just like a honey burst sort of situation, that McCarty I had. I wonder where that guitar ended up. I don't even remember selling it. Where the hell did I sell? So many guitars. It's like, what did I do with that thing? I know there was a day when I sold it or traded it for something else, but I just don't remember. Any Van Halen setting for the 5153? Well, the blue channel, the middle one, is the most sort of vintage Van Halen to me, not the red channel, which is kind of more MIDI and kind of notched sounding. But the blue channel to me was always the one that was like, oh yeah, sounds pretty good, especially on the original 5153 head. I had a white one back. I played the How to Play Eruption video on that amp, so you can hear my version of like whatever, my early days of YouTube, is that amplifier on that sound. So that's like that'd be, go listen to that and tell me if you think of it. I think I would run the presence up fairly 2 o'clock or something like that, fairly high, and then I would have the bass maybe on 7 or 8 and the mids on, I don't remember, to be honest, but I think I had the bass and the treble up a little higher and then the mids back a little, the way I would run it. But I remember the first time I played a 5153 at Guitar Center in Hollywood, and I plugged into it when it first came out around 2007 or whatever, and I thought, oh, this is really good for that sound. I remember trying it and just low volume and everything, and it sounded great, I thought at the time. And that's what I was using on tour when I got my first PT100 was that 5150 actually. I used it for my crunch sound with Chris Cornell. for the whole 2007. That's what I used, that amp mainly. When I started with Chris, I had just my Comets. I had 2 Comets, which was great, like a Concorde. It was totally cool. I mean, nice boutique, expensive, lovely amplifiers. But then I quickly realized, I needed a clean. So I added my divided by 13, either the FTR 37. Eventually, I think I ended up using the AC 31 mostly, the RSA 31. So I had RSA 31 and the Comet, and then I got the 5150, and then I would switch all 3 amplifiers. And then John told me I was crazy because I was using all these amps, too many amps. Do you have any experience with Port City amps? That's funny. My experience goes back to then because I met the fellow from Port City. Is it Daniel? I haven't talked to him in years. I think it's Daniel. And I got a couple of his cabinets. I got 2 of his 112s, and I got a 412, which I still have in the other room. It's loaded with Scumbag M65s. I took it out and used it for my 2-note signature Dyne IR package, so that you can hear those Port City IRs in that if you have a 2-notes subscription or whatever, or you're signed up for that. But anyways, so I had 3 of his cabinets. I still don't have one. I don't have the 112s anymore. I sold them, but I remember he got an amplifier to Yogi, and I heard that amp. I think it was very sort of Bassman-like. It was a head, simple 1-channel 6L6 sort of affair. And they seem cool, I don't really remember much beyond that, to be honest. Another Australian clinic would be great. I'd love to come to Australia again, man. Do guitar clinics again. Maybe next year. We'll have a PT50 at some point, and then I'll want to do clinics, and maybe another extensive kind of Europe. As long as Sir's on board and they want me to go do it, I'd love to do it. Go to Australia. I'd love to do what we did the last time. Go to Australia. Go to Asia. We did Thailand. We did Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea, Japan. It was awesome. Ended up in Australia. But I'd like to do more in Australia because we just did the Canberra clinic last time, which was great. So many people came from all over for that clinic. It was amazing to me. There was folks there from Melbourne and Sydney. It was wonderful. I'd love to just go to those other places too. Maybe do one in Perth. I don't even know if there's a Sir dealer in Perth, but once you get all the way to Australia, you might as well go, because you're all the way there. So it takes a long time to get there. And, yeah. So yeah, I'd love to make that happen. Totally down. Maybe next year when there's more exciting stuff to come from Sir and myself and stuff. So coordinate it all so that we can do a little clinic tour. I'd love that. Where was the show in Minnesota? It was at a place called the Mystic Lake or Mystic River or Mystic Lake Casino. Mystic Lake, I think. Land of Lakes. And they do this big thing there every year, like summer kind of shows, and it's called Rib Fest. And there's like contests for like ribs. Come out, who's got the best ribs? And there's a couple of musical acts every night. Like the day before us was War and Average White Band, I think. Average White Band and War. And then the day that we were playing it was Letters to Cleo and Fight for Fighting. Yep. Arthur with some coffee funds for the road. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Jano says watching from the UK, so it's pretty late there. 10, 11, 12, it's 12:30, right? A little after midnight. Well, thanks for joining in late on a Sunday evening. Any thoughts on pickup mounting methods and the effect on sound? Direct mount versus... Well, I'm not I don't really know if there's this transfer of tone when you've got the pickup mounted to the wood. I mean, maybe, but the one thing I will just say is the detrimental thing that can happen is sometimes you get vibration and feedback, and it's usually like a low hum kind of feedback, like a boo, and that can be the body vibrating with the pickup, especially if the pickup's real hot. So I had that actually happen in my Sir Modern with a Doug Aldrich pickup in it. So sometimes the coupling of the body and the pickup can actually be a bit of an issue. So anyway, something to think about. But I'd love to give it trying the same guitar. Once again, this is something that you got to do an A/B test. It'd have to be the same guitar with a pickup suspended and then screwed right into the body, and we'd have to listen to the sound, see if we heard a difference. But there's all these things that we could do if we had time, and if there was time and budget involved, you know. But I haven't done it directly. Direct comparison. Seen you review many different types of modelers and profiles over the years, yet you continue using analog amps and pedals. Do you think you'll ever switch over? Well, I mean, I use digital now. I mean, I used it last night on my gig. So, because, I take the Quad Cortex for my Five for Fighting gigs. I love it. On that gig, it's become my main rig, and it's very comfortable to use, and I love the sounds, and why change? I've already got them all programmed in there in the set. It's consistent, and man, a sound guy came up last night. He goes, "Man, I love your tone. Sounds great. I love mixing it." And that's all I need to hear, really. It's like it works good, and especially in the context with that band, because I'm, mainly there to provide. It's not like a guitar-based drum thing. I'm there to provide support for John, whether he's playing acoustic guitar or piano. He's the artist, and I'm filling in. So so it works terrific in that band. I still use cabinets on stage though. So I think that, tube amps I love just because they're cool, and the tube thing, it's just cool. But you can get a very, very close sound through a guitar cabinet these days with a modeler. I say through a guitar cabinet, and it's because the cabinet is the bigger deal, like the guitar speakers on stage, moving air and coming from behind you, not just through a monitor on the floor, through a full range thing. It's a guitar speaker and the way that it interacts with the stage in the room. And that is the biggest component. The tube amp's also a component, but the guitar speakers are the biggest component, I find, for me. That's in my experience of playing with real cabinets on stage with both modelers and tube amps. And then also maybe just going direct, and I've gone direct with tube amps too. I've done that route. Did a whole French tour where no cabinet on stage at all, but I was using tube amps into load boxes. I would not do that now. Actually, if you told me I couldn't have a cabinet on stage, I think I'd just go Quad Cortex at this point. All right, fine. I'm not gonna go to the trouble and the heat and stuff and expensive amps, especially not for a pop gig. I just wouldn't. I could do it with the PT-15. Because we've got the load box in there and stuff. It's built for it. But, you're still dealing with, if you're going to a gig, you got to take it. The PT-15, it's still taking a case and everything. If it's the Quad, I can actually throw it in a backpack. And if I can't have a cabinet on stage, then it's like, it almost like spells it out to me. It's like if whoever is dictating the term says you can't, it's a direct gig, you can't have a cabinet on stage, then I sort of feel like going, well, why bring you the tube amp then? Because it's not a priority to have the rock on stage or whatever. You know what I mean? It's more of a priority we're trying to keep the budget down and the volume down and all that kind of stuff. So then it's like, well, screw it, just go direct then. And going direct generally means the Quad, because they're really good. They're good those days. Or I'd take this board, take this board and put two sounds in the ToneX, and away I go. Now, given the freedom to do what I want to do, the first step is I'd like a guitar cab on stage, generally speaking. The next step is, have I got a tech and everything? Okay, now I can bring my amps. Sort of the way I feel about it. All right. Do I still have the unobtainium on the other board? Yep. And I'm still going to try the unobtainium raw, because if that's better, I've heard somebody say it's better than the regular unobtainium. Who knows? But I'm going to do a direct AB on that coming up soon, because I've got one here, and see what it sounds like, because I really like the unobtainium. So, favorite coffee shop in NoHo? There's a couple good ones. I mean, the Groundworks is right by the train station, right by the corner of Lancashire and Chandler. Is good. And Republic of Pie was still great. The Stumptown coffee, it's good. Super solid. Nice place to go hang and have a coffee too. So probably Republic of Pie and Groundworks. I think there's some other ones that are. Oh, you know what's actually pretty good is the coffee at Amp Rehearsal. There's a rehearsal studio in Lancashire that has been there forever. It's not the best rehearsal studio. It's okay. The rooms are not the best soundproofing and stuff, so you'll hear the din of other bands through the wall kind of thing. But it's kind of a, it's still got a vibe to it or whatever. It's okay. But they built a really nice coffee shop in the lobby, and the coffee is excellent at Amp Coffee, like really, really good. So give it a try if you haven't. Yeah. For HSS strats, would you recommend Thornbucker Plus or Thornbucker 2? Oh, they're both really good. I'm really enjoying the Thornbucker 2 in my HSS. Thornbucker Plus is probably a little brighter, maybe. So maybe it might even match with the single coils more, but who cares really? I've got Thornbucker 2 in mine. I really like it. So it's, the A2 magnet is generally a little more rolled off on the top end. And that's just how it is. So is Robert Baker here? I think he's here. How you doing, Robert? I haven't seen you for a long time. RC says, can I gift you my Maz 8? You're my hero. Oh, man, you don't have to do that. That's very sweet of you, but I've got so many amps here and stuff. You should sell it and buy something else you want, Get something fun. It's very nice of you, though. Very, very nice of you. Just moving down through the chat here. Are you familiar with Michael Burks? No, who's that? Who am I missing out on? The Def Leppard Ibanez was a cool 3-humbucker guitar. I was in a band with a guy that had one. James Tokarski. When I was in high school, had a 3-humbucker. It was cool looking. 3 cream humbuckers. The Phil Collin. It was cool looking. I like that guitar. That version of the Destroyer. That's like the next Destroyer, I liked that guitar too. It's pretty cool. When I think of that guitar, I think of the Foolin' video. That whammy bar thing. You know what I'm talking about? Right before the solo. Didn't he have that guitar? And he was, I think, because he had a Kaler, right? Wasn't it? It was like one of those with a Kaler, and then the regular one came with like a stock Strat style bridge on it. Yeah. How's the Mac Studio working out? Haven't actually busted it out yet. I've got it right here. Here it is. Here's a monitor. So I don't know if I feel like I'm not gonna have time to tackle a computer change before I do this little 2-week tour. It might have to happen at the end of August. So I'm still on my old iMac right now. Because it's like 2 days of like software and installations and configuration and the whole 9 yards, right? Migration assistant and all that, and getting things up and running. So I saw your name really on the Jim Wagner pickups website. It's been a minute since I've used any Wagner pickups. I mean, nice guy. I had a set of Crossroads that I got from many years ago, but that would be going back to 2009 or 10, I think, that I got those. Probably 2010. They were pretty cool. Whatever I replaced them with, I think I liked a little more. That guitar might have, I think I had the Crossroads in that guitar, which was my 2009 50th anniversary Les Paul R9 reissue. I think I had the Crossroads in there up until we developed the Thornbuckers, actually. And with Thornbuckers, I was going for, the brighter, more telly on steroids thing, like a little more clarity and all that. And so I remember liking the Thornbuckers a little more when I put them in. But that's not to say anything about, Jim, he's got an excellent reputation for pickups. And, it's just a different sound. I might try those Crossroads now and go, actually, these are really great. It's a long time ago and stuff. I just remember I would really hip on the hip to the, the super telly on steroids Jimmy Page thing at the time, and that's what I wanted. And so when I put the Thornbuckers in the guitar, it was a little more what I wanted. But now I might, you know how it is. You go back and you listen, like, actually, this is cool. We're fickle creatures as guitar players. So no slag on Jim's pickups, that's for sure. The SG special that Jim from Scumbag has Wagner P90s in it, and that guitar sounds amazing. So really, really, really good. Yeah. Lawrence says the EB Ernie Ball St. Vincent has 3 humbuckers. Yeah, they're mini humbuckers, right? They're like, I wonder if are they Ernie Ball pickups or them Duncans or something? I'm not sure. Yeah. Always thought it was weird that Gibson made 3 humbucker Les Pauls, but they didn't wire it so you could actually hear the 3 humbuckers together. Isn't there the Jimmy Page one that like has all these crazy? It had this crazy switch in it. Remember, like, wasn't there like a Les Paul custom that Jimmy Page had, and then it got stolen or something? And that's when he started playing bursts. There's some whole story about it. But the guitar that they came out with as like a Jimmy Page tribute Les Paul custom. This was like a long time ago, but 10 years ago, maybe more. But it had this crazy switch that looked like the traditional switch on a Les Paul, but you could push it one way and then it would be the standard Les Paul stuff. And if you pushed it the other way, it would be different pickup sounds. And it was all this series parallel stuff. And it was pretty cool, as I remember. But anyways. For years, I looked, I think, for a solution to using the same board for amp loop and running in front, and your solution with the interface is sublime. It's been baffling for me for a long time now. Yeah, well, here's the other thing about this board, right? Like, I want to show you, like, that a long time ago, I came up with the idea of, like, so this is kind of guitar goes in here, this goes to the amp, and then the send comes back here from so this is like the return really from the amp. So you're sending out of the effects loop, signal goes back into here and then goes into the mixer, right? Well, if I want to use, say, a twin reverb or a super reverb or something, I simply got to take this and go like this. And now I've patched the output of the switcher into the mixer. And the sound is now going to go, out of the switcher straight into the mixer with the dig and the illuminate for reverb. And then I can just take one of these outputs and go right to the front of an amplifier. So this kind of system allows me to use the board with an amp with effect loop, with an amp with an effect loop and a second amp for return. I can also just run, by doing this, I can now run everything direct and just take one of the outputs and even go into a DI or right to a recording interface and use the ToneX that's in loop 6 on the switcher as my amp, right? Because it's the last thing in the switcher. So as long as I turn that loop on, I've got my gains and compressors and stuff and chorus and mod pedals going into my virtual amp right here. And then coming out of my virtual amp into the mixer with the dig and the reverb, just blending in some delay and reverb. And then I can come out of the board and go right to a power. So with this configuration, you can do anything. Use it with and a modeling pedal on the board like the ToneX one. It can be a direct board. It can be an all-in-one, everything in front of amp board with parallel mixer for your time-based effects. It can be stereo. It can be mono. It's freaking awesome. Yeah. That's how you do it. The Corbis 2 preamps sound like my post-phase inverter. People have been telling me about these, and I got to try them because I haven't tried them. So Mr. Corbis, can I try your tube preamp? They're supposed to have like a phase inverter style circuit built in, right? So I want to give them a try. I don't know if there is a Mr. Corbis, but I would assume there is. Why the switcher? Yeah, for the switcher controls my amps because they're MIDI. So the switcher controls the MIDI pedals on the board, like the dig and the illuminate and the Zelza, so I can store presets. And the switcher allows you to switch in and out, compressor, fuzz, overdrive, whatever you want on a particular preset. So long story short, the switcher is the master control and interface for the whole board. And it's also the buffer. And, so with the switcher, you can go from a crystal clean sound with you know, a bunch of ambient reverb and some chorus or something straight to a lead sound with a mono delay if you want to. You know, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to pedal dance and all that. You know, you can just store your presets for your. So many years ago, I started using switchers, and I've never looked back. I mean, I don't even know that I ever used Pedalboard. And yeah, I mean, when I think about it, I've been using some sort of switching setup for at least 30 years. Well, what did I use when I had? Okay, maybe in 1992 or 3. I don't remember what I used for effects, but I swear to God, I think I had a Korg multi-effect floor thing that I was doing some primitive version of presets with. It was a Korg A something or other. Did they make a A5 or something? Because I remember they made the A3 and the A1 and stuff. They were rack things, but then they had a floor one. And I think I had that in the effect loop of a 5150 doing, and it had simple channel switching on it, is my memory of that thing. Like, you know, some relay based switch jack in it. And I could channel switch the 5150 that I was using when I first kind of started gigging around LA. I had a block logo 5150 that had just come out. And I think I was using that in the effect loop of the 5150, and I could make presets, and then I could hit, you know, the switches on the Korg, and it would change the amp too. So I was doing, you know, delay and reverb and shit like that with whatever, with that Korg thing, I remember. And then when I got my first rack, that'd be 96 or so, I got a rack built by Rack Systems. It was actually by Jamie, who still does stuff for Rack Systems, but it was at Making Music, the original Making Music on Lancashire. And I had a rack, 6-bass rack built, and it had a GCX in it and a pedal drawer and stuff like that. And I had a ground control, and that would change, you know, channels on the amp, the ground control would and stuff, and whatever amp I was using, you know. I used to use it to AB. You know, with the ground control, you can use 2 loops to AB. So I remember going to both channels of my Top Hat King Royale with that. It had a normal kind of aux channel and then a top boost channel. I would AB those for like a clean and then a slightly crunchy, and then hit it with drives and stuff for more gain when I used that. A couple years after that, I ended up getting just a Marshall DSL 50. I remember, and I was touring with the DSL 50 a little bit, 99, you know, and then I could rent one on the road easy because they were everywhere. And I used that first rack I had with that. So I was doing just presets and stuff back then and switchers. I never really liked I never got, like, why would you want to jump around on pedals when you can hit one button and everything changes? It never made sense to me. So what's your opinion on old 80s MOSFET Marshalls? I had one. It's funny. This is the second time this has come up today, actually, because somebody made a little video where they were comparing a JCM, or no, it was a 2203, but it was like a JMP one, JMP 2203 to a Marshall Lead 12, and it sounded almost exactly the same into IRs. You know, going between the two into the same IR, they sounded almost identical. It made me want a Lead 12. They were those little solid state Marshalls from the early 80s. But the MOSFET Lead 100 was my first good amp. I had a Trainer 10-watt combo, and then I had an Ibanez something or other that was like a 50-watt solid state thing in the early 80s. Those were my first 2 amps. And then when I was about 15 or 16, I got a MOSFET Lead 100 with matching 410 cabinet for Christmas. It was one of my favorite Christmases ever. It was like I knew what it was because I came down on Christmas and there was this cabinet sitting there with a thing on top, and they were all wrapped, and I was like, it's time to rock. Yeah. And although it wasn't a tube Marshall or whatever, it was still pretty cool. And I remember it sounded pretty good. Pretty good, you know? Pretty good. So, and I'll be honest, I've actually looked to buy one like numerous times. Like if one pops up on eBay or something, or Reverb or whatever, and it's $350, I'll probably buy one. Just because, you know, do you guys do that? Like, yeah, I've looked for Caliber 50 Mesas, because I kind of want one of those again too, because it's like the amps I had when I was a kid, I got rid of, and it's like that was actually pretty cool. I kind of want one just to hear it again, see if it sounds the same as I remember. So I do remember getting a Caliber 50 and feeling like I'd really stepped up, but then it quickly started eating tubes, and I got rid of it. And wished I'd never done that because it was a cool. I don't know where that head is now. It's like 87 or 88. I got this Caliber 50. It was one of the ones that ran EL84s real hot. Had a quartet of EL84s. It was a nice lead sound, like big fat lead tone that sounded really good to me. It wasn't too complicated. It had the graphic, but it was just no push pull, nothing on those amps, and it was really cool. And then they discontinued it probably because of the tube issues and stuff, and however the circuit was. They're probably getting a bunch of warranty stuff and problems, and so that's my theory anyway, because they were only out for like a year or two. And then they brought out the Caliber 50 Plus, and a friend of mine got one of those, and I heard it, and I was like, it sounded harsh to me compared to my amp. It didn't sound warm, and my Caliber 50 sounded really, it just had this liquid lead tone. It was pretty cool. So I've always kind of wanted one again. Now convinced Eddie uses super distortion for VH1. I was a fool forever thinking otherwise. I'm pretty sure he did too. Or the Mighty Might, either the 9K or 13K or whatever version of the Mighty Might that's like a super distortion. I'm pretty sure that's what he was using too, at least in the Destroyer, I think. It just makes sense. You put it in that guitar and you play the rest, you go, oh God, there's all that meat. It's got you really got me tone was the elusive one to me. Not so much like Ain't Talking About Love and anything that had the bar, but more like the meaty intro of You Really Got Me was the sound where I was like, that is huge sounding, And that's when I put the super distortion in the Destroyer and I heard it, I was like, that kind of sounds like it to me. It sounds big and fat, and there's a big old wood guitar that's making the sound with a Tune-o-matic. And not only that, this short scale thing, the 24 3/4 Gibson scale, it's a different sound, So once we realize Van Halen 1 is two guitars, and embrace it and then realize what was the pickup in that second guitar, it's more complicated than a lot of people make it. But it's also simpler. I think, because it explains a lot, the sound of a glue-in neck guitar and the 24 3/4 and all that. It's a different thing. So, yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Oh yeah, here was this. You watched the same thing I did today. 78 JMP and the lead 12. They sounded so similar. That's the funny thing about IRs is they'll be, once again, an IR will then you've got this constant that you can put a sound into and go, oh, because of course we think of a lead 12 as being this little thing that had a little matching 110 cabinet or maybe a combo with a little 10-inch speaker built in. It was this big, right? And then a 2204 or 2203 into a 412 cabinet. Well, it's not really a fair fight just because of the speaker thing and the cabinet. It's completely different physics, right? So, but if you put them both into the same thing, now you've got something that, and that's what you get with the IR is the, once you hear them both through the same, apples to apples, it's like, oh, okay. When is your new guitar coming out? Says Scott. You mean the Floyd version of my signature? It's out now. Dealers were able to order them quite a while ago. So, there should be, I don't know how long until the first ones show up, but yeah, they're available for at least to order. So, Peter with the super chat, thank you, $13.99. I appreciate you. You're the best. No, it's you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Still have the Super 70s in my Destroyer, says Dan. Did they sound good? I mean, maybe the one I got was weird or or maybe not all Super 70s were created equal. Like I say, I just didn't like them in the Destroyer. But which Ron Ellis pickups do you have in your Telly? I believe it's the 5060 or something it's called, and it's got the medium tall neck pickup. That's my memory of it. Is everything else stock? Well, sort of. So the plate with the tone pot, the switch, and the like the pots and the switch, the wiring assembly essentially was replaced. I have the OG wiring assembly with the original pots and switch, but they just the store that did a little work on the guitar for me said, why don't we can make you a, like, it's basically all new old stock, like the tone cap and everything is all old and everything, and the wire is even old. They used old wire. It's pretty what into that kind of thing in Japan. So they just made me a new sort of assembly, and I took the old one out because I can't remember if the pots were scratchy or what, but it's like, we'll just make you one that works perfect, and then you can, if you ever sell the guitar, you can just put the old one back in. I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. And then I got the Ron Ellis pickups because my pickups had one of them's got a kind of warp base plate, which is really common on tellies of that age and era. And the neck pickup, there was something going on with a bit of a short, so it was intermittent, and I was like, this is kind of a drag. So Ron just made me this set of pickups, and I put them in, and it was like the guitar just sounds like friggin' amazing. I mean, you've heard it in videos and stuff. It's very 3D sounding and just great. Couldn't ask for more. So I put the old pickups away. I could always probably get the neck rewound, and I don't know if the base plate is fixable or not on the other one, but I'll probably never sell the guitar. So I just put it all away and went, great. I've got an amazing playable 60s telly now, and it sounds awesome. So that's all that matters. What would be a good way to split a guitar output to feed 2 amps? Well, there's a number of different ways you can do it. I'll show you what I would recommend if all you're trying to do is just feed the 2 amps and blend the sounds. You should have. Yeah. This is what I always recommend. Just that ABY is great. Twin City from Radial. So you can toggle between the 2 amps. See the switch there? AB or both, ABY. And then you get the switches here to phase reverse the second output as well as ground isolate. Transformer isolate. So this is all you need, really. This will, it's a really, really good AB box, and just, buffers and the whole 9 yards. You get a nice strong pure signal to both amplifiers. Quiet, no ground loops, killer. There's other ways to do it, but that's a good solid way to do it. If you've got a chorus pedal or something, you want, or a stereo delay or something, you can always come out of that, right, and run to the second amp and the main amp. But or whatever, 2 amplifiers for different sounds, but you're going to have to then transformer isolate the second amp, which that has built in the AB box. So just know that you'll have to get something like some sort of transformer isolation going on. Palmer makes one, Samson makes one for quite cheap. It's just a little 1/4 inch in out thing that busts the ground basically. You are cool for doing what you do. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Probably going to split pretty soon. It's about 5. I'll hang another 10 or so, and then I'm going to go, I think. Just because I'm beat and I want to eat some dinner and stuff. I haven't had a real meal today, so I'm going to go take care of that and stuff. And then next week, I think, what's going on next week? Let me see. It's the 28th today. Let's take a look right now. Yeah, I don't go till Monday the 5th. So next week, Sunday Live will be same time, same place as usual. It'll be the, let's see here. And then when I'm out, the 11th and the 18th, I'll be on tour. So hopefully I can do, let's take a look and see what's going on for the next few weeks here while we're talking about it, shall we? Look in the old master tour, see where I'm at. August 11th, I will be playing Grand Rapids, Michigan. I could probably do Sunday Live, though, that day. It'll just be, it'd be middle of the day, pre-sound check. All good. I'll make it happen on the 11th. And then the 18th, Same deal. It'll be the Terrytown Music Hall in Terrytown, New York, and I will make it happen that day as well. Kind of be maybe just be for an hour or something each day, but I'll do it. It'll be one of those backstage ones, where I'm kind of like hanging at the venue, which is fun. They're always a little different then. And then the following day, I'll be coming home. It'll all be over by then. We will have played and had fun. During a gig, do you adjust your analog pedals, or you set them prior and leave them? Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I do like occasionally. Like my Echoplex pedal has a tap, so I can actually tap tempo if I need to do anything different on that. Sometimes I want a little something different, like certainly the Unit 67 that's on my main board. It's a boost with a great big clean boost knob, and sometimes I'll play with that during the gig. I just want a little bit of boost, or let's goose it more. I'll mess with that. Just looking at my board right now, think about what I actually change on the gig. Occasionally with the compressor, I'll feel like I'm not getting enough boost out of it, or maybe too much the threshold to be a little low for whatever guitar I'm playing, and I'll just reach down as I'm literally mid-song and open it up a little bit. So yeah, I do. I tweak the pedals a little here and there, on the gig. I'll tweak my amp on the gig. I mean, especially when I was using the SL67 for not last year, but the year before with a classic rock show, I would go back and, like when we'd play Van Halen, I'd go back and dime the volume and stuff, and just tone controls and things like that for different songs. Yeah. Peter. Braxall say, sorry, I'm going to get up there to the super chat there in a second. Braxall said, yeah, I've got my computer here. It's right here, but I just don't think I'm going to I have a week right now, and I don't know if I can take 2 days because I got a lot going on this week, actually. Some video work and things I got to get done. I know if I get into that, I'm going to be like, because it's going to be, they make it pretty easy, like the migration and all that. But, if I get into like, oh, my plugins aren't working or something, and I need to figure out licenses and stuff. And meanwhile, I'm like thinking about getting work done. And then I got tour looming, and I've got a rehearsal this week and stuff. It's like, I think I might just leave that for a couple weeks in the box, and then come back end of August, and maybe first thing when I get back, get into setting up the new computer. Yeah. On that note, have you checked out the AI arranger features in Logic Pro 11? I haven't, because I can't update on this computer. This computer is so old that I'm on right now, I can't do the latest Logic update. So that'll be when I get into this. Then I can update Logic and use the stem splitter and these AI features and everything and try it out. Kind of excited to try it all, see how it works. Because I know there's a bunch more features. Mark says, having a professional board build is crazy expensive, but I'm not playing for a living. It's expensive, but it's not expensive, because at the end of the day, you end up spending time making the board yourself, and then it's expensive to have it screw up. That's what I always think. Like, I'd rather make money doing something that I'm good at, so that I can pay somebody to do something they're an expert at. You know what I mean? And also have the peace of mind that the thing's going to work great, So that's pedal boards for me. It's like, I'm not good at putting them together, and I can't do like this kind of work. Okay. Get it in the light here enough where you can see the cables coming out of the switcher and how they're all tied to the board, like how clean that is, and all the, you know what I mean? And then maybe you can even, like, maybe the way that, it was all done on the bottom, the way everything's routed and tied super tight and everything, and just done clean, I can't do that, and they're just really experts at that. And so there's, you don't want a problem on a board like this with that many connections and stuff like that. Everything's got to be tight and done right. And so that's where you spend the money, and it's kind of like it's an investment into your sound, like anything, and into your work. So, yeah. Any advice on better clean tone on the Helix? I know that they updated the IR thing a couple of years ago, and then the speaker sounds got much better in it. I used to always recommend using external IRs. So I think what's in it is much better now, but you might try some external IRs anyway if you're having an issue. My favorite clean was the what the heck's it called? Let me turn on my Helix here really quick. And yeah, here we go. It was like the Cali something or other. It was like the Lone Star. It was basically like a Fender channel. But the Lone Star channel 1. Let me see here in the presets. I should have one here. I don't have my editor hooked up, so I'm just going through and trying to find the EB. Oh, I don't know. These are all the stock Line 6 presets. I don't know if I can. It's been a minute since I've turned this on, so I'm not gonna remember how to look at the other presets. I just literally hit the screen because it's like a touch screen. It's not a touch screen on the Helix, of course. So I don't know. I can't remember like really quick how to get to the name of the amp or cabinet. It'll take me too long to try and figure it out. Well, here I can figure it out because I'm stepping through right now. So let me just find the one. I swear. Okay, it's not the Placator because that's the Friedman. Yeah, there it is. Cali, Texas Channel 1. Cali, Texas Channel 1 was what I always used for my, and I always thought that was really good actually. Like it's just it's probably like a twin almost. But that just sounded good to me. I like the Placator Dirty because that was like a Friedman BE, and the Cali Texas Channel 1 was like a Fendery Clean. So those were the two sounds on the Helix. Quite good, really. I mean, really nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. While you're picking, are you digging the strings or are you holding the pick loose and just touching the strings? Well, it's a little bit of everything, really. I mean, I like to use my fingers sometimes and play for the touch, different, sometimes harder, sometimes softer. With the pick, I would say I like a fairly aggressive pick attack. I mean, it's kind of an Eddie Van Halen thing, but I think he always, is a real snap. Like I'd rather use a thinner pick and kind of get an attack on the string than use a thicker pick that's trying to push the hell out of the string. And, just kind of the way I grew up, or maybe the way I've just developed over the last even little while, but yeah. Delays in Eventide H90 versus Boss SDE. Would the EVH version be necessary for wet dry wet the PT15 IR? H90 does a lot of things really well, and the vintage delay in it is great. It's kind of the vintage digital is sort of their version of something like an SDE or 2290 or something. Delays are a funny thing because you think it's just a converter and it's digitally recreate, and it's like whatever. But they do have a sound. There's something about the SDE that's just, I don't know, man. I love the stereo SDE thing. I mean, that said, I'm loving the Dig too on this other board, which also is a digital. But I could get away with just using, an H90 for sure, and using like the delay in the one side and then reverb in the other side, and just use it like that and not have anything else. And I would use the vintage digital. It sounds great. I mean, there's some really, really good delay sounds in the H90. But it's a funny thing. I mean, sometimes you just want like the SDE is just, when I think of it, it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like you could use a lot of amps to get a certain sound. There's a lot of things that do similar things these days, but you're like, ooh, that one, and that's just it. I want to use that for that job. So stereo delay is just, I'm really hip to the SDE right now. I mean, it's like really, it just has the sound I want. I don't know. I turn it on. It's like, and a lot of people feel that way about it. I think, that's why it's a kind of a delay legend, I guess, It was interesting trying the 2290 too. It's really good too, the pedal version of that. We live in this time of abundance. We got these killer, pedal recreations of these vintage boxes that are pretty great. So Yeah, thoughts on Gretsch guitars. When would you use this type of guitar? Well, to do Brian Setzer or Malcolm, but or Chris Cornell. There's some great things about those guitars. Those kind of low output filtertrons and stuff, and the sounds. It's just cool. I would love both a Brian Setzer, version of it's like a 6120 or whatever, right? His has the kind of hot roddy TV Jones and the the pinned bridge and all that stuff right out of the gate. So I'd love to get one of those someday. And then I would also love a Malcolm Young signature, would love that. What was my first amp? How did you get started with gear? You shouting. Big letters. First amp was a Trainer 10 watt little solid state combo. And I was always interested in gear. I was always like I took apart my first guitar and I wanted to know how it worked, and got a couple pedals right out of the gate, a super overdrive and a chorus of some sort. It was called AMEK, AMEK, AMEK analog chorus with a rate and a depth control. Those were my first two pedals. So, did you notice any latency running the H90 parallel? Yeah, you'll get a little. I don't know if you'll notice it, but I've heard people mention that, if you run it in parallel. So the way I use it, no, you won't notice any latency because the dry signal is always running through, right? So when you're just blending in effect, but you've got 100% dry mixed in all the time, you're just adding the effect to the dry, and the dry has no latency because it's analog. So no, if you run it in parallel, you won't notice anything. It's only when you run series through both H90s, you'll go into one side, out, into the other side, out. If you do that, like if you split and you have both of them patched into separate loops on a switcher or something, you're going to get double the latency. So you might end up with a few milliseconds. You might, start to feel it a little bit and stuff. Probably not though. It's so, they're fast, man, these days, but no, parallel, you will get no noticeable anything. Great new pedalboard video, says Dylan. Building speaker cab for a preamp based on Dumble Overdrive Special and a Fret Piece 100. Cool. Should I use a 112 Celestion Gold or 210 Celestion Golds? Ooh, interesting question. I see your dilemma. Speaker cab for a preamp based on a Dumble Overdrive Special and a Fret Piece 100. It depends on the sounds you're going for, but I'm kind of a fan of 210s. A 112 is a great thing too, but it's probably going to be a boxier sound and a little more compact. 210s is going to sound a little more full and spacious, but full in the top and the bottom, just a little more air and stuff. You'll notice a little less mid-rangey and focused. So you just have to ask yourself what you want, and if you're running it open back, it just depends, a 210 is kind of a cool thing. If you want a focused drive sound, like some mid-range lead and stuff, I'd probably go for the single 12. If that's more important to you, like kind of a warm overdrive that's for lead, and the 12 is probably the way to go. But the 210s, if you're playing clean or doing more kind of, could be, you want a little more air in the tone, a little more space and stuff. I don't know. Does that make sense? Didn't Ed use the red channel on a 51? I guess I'm pretty far back in the chat, aren't I? So maybe I should go down and like spend another just 5 minutes kind of cleaning up here and answering things. I don't think Ed used the red channel mostly on the 51. I mean, he might have. I don't know. The blue channel that sounded more Marshall for sure. The red channel, I mean, it's more gains. It's a lot of gain stages, like all cascaded into one another. And it's also just got this kind of scoop, or not scoop. It's got a mid-range thing to it, but it's a little more, I don't know. Like it has, for lack of a better term, a little more of a cocktail kind of sound. the red channel. Just a little, it's got that mid-range thing going on. That doesn't really sound like early Van Halen to me. It's pretty far off from that. But the blue channel is, a little more, that it's just a little more plexy sounding to me. So Okay. I think there was a super chat there from Peter and stuff, and I should grab that too. I am way behind in the chat. I feel like I've been moving pretty quick, but I guess just and there's not like a ton of us here. There's 200, most was 250 today online, but there's a lot of comments, so that's awesome. Hey Peter, what's up, man? Videos this week. We'll see. I've got something that I can't talk about because it's not it'll be in 3 days. So that one's a secret. It's for a computer thing. It's cool. Sort of a computer thing. And then what else? I mean, I've got a ton to do here. So I really have to get a video done for this 1987X pedal. I've shown you it a couple times. It's still sitting here. This is a little Marshall in a box. Basically, it's programmable. You can store up to 12 presets in it if you want to do any MIDI. If you don't, you can just A/B between two sounds. But it's a great Plexi meets modded Marshall situation. So I should be getting to that very, very soon. As well as some other stuff. But so look for maybe that this week. I've got a boost pedal here called the Boostopia. Really need to get that done for these nice folks. It's a three-way boost. It'll do low boost, a clean boost, or a high frequency boost. Gotta get that done. But my knees hurt. Got a kitten. No way. Congratulations. Wish I could see it. No name yet. Give it like a I don't know, call it like Bill or something. Or, I don't know, Sean. Or if it's a girl, call it Jackie. Like a 70s name, you know? Jackie the cat. What do you guys think? Carol. Congratulations. Love animals so much. The best. Has anyone used a radial head switcher? I've used it a little bit. Headbone, it's called. It's pretty cool. I actually used it on tour many years ago. There was probably a different version of it now because that was 15 years ago, but it did work quite well. Yeah. Are you seeing Gilmore? I'm not. The tickets are insanely expensive. So, and I've seen a lot of shows from AC/DC to the Stones and stuff I've seen recently. I'm a little tapped out on concerts lately, and I don't even know if I'll be here. I might be on the road when he's playing. I'm not sure. Do you always play your non-master volume amps through the power station? Yes. Is it better than the Boss TAE? I mean, I've used the Boss TAE on tour. It's good too. I'm just, I always tell people to be wary of those reactive switches. That's all. But it's a good piece of gear and it does things that nothing else out there yet does. So like with the effects and stuff that are built in. Do I think the power station is the power station is my choice here, and basically I'm running through it almost all the time because it's so transparent, and it does a great job just controlling the overall volume to the amp out in the other room. I don't want to murder the cabinet out there, and when there's no need to, when it sounds as transparent as it is, that's my endorsement. Why not use it? So it's a great piece of gear. How do you find the balance dialing in a leader overdrive distortion pedals between touch sensitivity and fatter and clarity without being too compressed? Less gain, Gotta back down that gain knob. What you want to do, goes for amps too, is only use as much distortion as you really need and then back it down just a hair. And that's what we always say, see if you can get away with that. And then other times it's like, you just want to floor it and go for sick gain. But if you can, every bit of distortion you add, you get less punch. That's just the truth, the more gain you pile on, the more compressed the sound gets and the less attack you're going to get. So it's a balance. It's always a balance. And the old school guys, let's say Eddie, they had volume for sustain, it wasn't an isolated cabinet and all that. And it was like, there was always a fair amount of, there was no way to turn it down back then other than using, the Variac and turning the cab around or doing things like that. So there was always an element of volume, and there wasn't so many gain stages in the amplifiers, and there wasn't even that many overdrives out on the market or boxes. So by turning the amp up, you got the drive. But when you've only got, Ingve said it best in the video that he did with Rick Beato. I loved his description of the plexi style amps, the super leads and plexis and stuff, was that the gain was linear throughout the amplifier. So that could go for a pedal board too, with distortion pedals on it. If you pile a whole bunch of gain on at one place, well, now you've compressed, because gain, I mean, I'm talking about saturation, really, it's a form of compression. And when you clip a signal and the sound can't go past there because you're clipping it with a IC or with a FET or a germanium or with a tube or MOSFET or whatever the hell you're doing it with, if you look at it on a scope, you can see that a clean signal just swings on a scope like this, goes with a peak that's very pointy. When you start to clip that, it'll start to round off that peak, and then it'll round off even more, and the sound can't go beyond that. Now, when it hits that peak and it just squarely gets cut off, now you're square waving the sound, and that's like a fuzz, which is why a lot of fuzzes have a very soft kind of attack to them, because what you've done is you've gone and taken all of the punch out of the sound. That peak is limited so hard that it's just hitting a brick wall. The sound goes into it and then it doesn't go any further, and it'll hold it there until the sound, the gain or your guitar sustain or whatever drops below that point again. Now it can't, so it'll push into there and it'll get held there. And if it's loud enough, now here's the interesting thing. If it's loud enough, and you get a feedback loop going between the guitar and stuff, you can have a relatively soft point of clipping at the top, right? It doesn't have to be so square waved and cut off, but relatively soft point of clipping, but if it's loud enough, the feedback will give you the sustain, right? Not the gain, not the clipped. It's the two different. I've never really thought about it like this, but it's making sense as I'm describing it. If you push into a sound and you lower that threshold by adding a ton of distortion there, where it's like, so basically the clipping, the sounds from your guitar is going to push into that. It's going to hit that wall of basically compression, and it's going to hold right there, and until your guitar signal drops back below the threshold where it's weak again, it's going to sustain. But the gain is what's sustaining it, that amount of compression and stuff, right? But if you've got a relatively soft clip sound where those peaks aren't getting, and you've got more punch in your sound and everything, your sound can just get clipped a little bit. But the volume from the feedback loop it can hold it up there. And then that little bit of clipping will kind of make it, and it all cascades into feedback, So the volume gives you the feedback while still retaining a lot of punch in the sound. That's what volume gives you. And that's why I hate silent stages. Well, it's just one of the reasons, but that's part of playing guitar. You take that away, you've taken away a big part of the expressiveness of the instrument to me. And you can't get it back any other way, not really. So that's my thoughts on that. And, with the great guitar sounds, you heard a lot it was very dynamic, because with all that, that volume for sustain and stuff and not too much distortion, you had a lot of punch. That's AC/DC, a lot of balls in the sound without it being too hyper distorted and not attack, because part of AC/DC is attack, right? Everybody hitting on the same, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like just everybody hitting on the same. That part of AC/DC was the when they went bang, 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 right? Everybody hitting on the same, right? And that kind of shit that they would do together, where the bass and the guitars would all attack together. There was not that much distortion, but there was a lot of volume. So it would be very punchy, and that's the power. And that's when you go see AC/DC, where everybody goes like this, and that's the magic of it all to me. So anyway, that's a long ass answer, but it's important that we discuss this stuff to I don't know, so that the kids don't just pile on distortion and play through in-ears. Yeah. Melon Husk says, awesome answer. Thanks. Yeah. It's all that balance. So yeah, if you've got something like my PT-100, turn the gain on 5 on channel 2 or 6, you know. And then if you need sound for a solo, just add an overdrive pedal on top or something if you want, or sustain, whatever, more gain. You can do that. Or on a Friedman BE or something, turn the gain up to like 6 and then just get some volume out of the thing for a little more. But the sound will always be better. But if you've got your gain on 10 and the master on 2, try turning your gain on 5 or 6 and put the master on 3.5. It's going to be better, for me, better. I mean, it's going to be, and then play with it. You got to be a little more accurate with your playing and stuff, but you practice and then you get there and then you just have more nuts in your sound. It's got more punch, more balls, more everything. The less gain forces you to play a little cleaner, so you just get a little better and you don't get too comfortable with all that gain. And to me, it's just got more, it's just more powerful. I don't know. That's what I think. Yeah. So anyways, all right. I think with that, it's 5:30. I've gone a couple hours now, or 1 hour and 50. I should go and go get some dinner and stuff like that. So next week, same time as usual, be 11:45 a.m. And for the couple weeks after that, I will try and keep it the same. It just depends on my schedule because I'll be at gigs and doing sound checks and stuff. But I should be able to keep it around the same time. I'll be Midwest, East Coast, so puts me around 1 or 2 p.m. or something like that, which is usually a pretty good time to do this before we get busy with a sound check a little bit later than that. All right, and come out and see us on tour. Be on the 5th. I leave, and look at the Five for Fighting website. See if we're playing near you. Come see us. It's fun show. John's a great songwriter. So, all right. Thanks so much, you guys. Thanks for all your super chats and your great questions and your participation and everything this week. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Glad I made it over here in time. And I will see you all next Sunday. Have an awesome week. See ya.